Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Bridge today. We have another guest here. He's by the name of Gavin. Welcome to the show, Gavin.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I know I've got Lily as well, and I think Casper's got his cat, so it's almost a full house.
I've got a snoring dog in the background as
There
well,
we
so I
go.
apologise for that noise.
It's a menagerie. Yeah.
So, as far as I'm aware, Gavin does a lot of legal work. She helps people with things like not paying council tax. I'm not taking him up on that yet, but yeah, we'll get all Gavin's info in the below, and you should check out some of his videos on his own channel.
Yeah.
But as for today, Casper, what is our topic?
Well, thank you, Gary, and hi again, Gavin. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm really pleased to have you with us. Just to say, I think it's worth saying this, since a lot of our audience is now in the States, which is fantastic. That what Gavin's going to talk about, maybe some of it will be slightly UK centric, but because we're much broader than that, and so is Gavin, where he's coming to things from. Actually, if the minutiae of any of this doesn't resonate in the US, I think that the general themes and the energy behind it will. So I just thought I'd mention that we are very cognizant of the fact that we have people watching from all over the world. I think that the general flow of this conversation would be apt anywhere. So the key thing that I think we're going to start out with Gavin is this concept of sovereignty and empowerment. And I know that that's a core thing for him and what he's doing. So without further ado, Gavin, over to you for a minute. If you could give our audience just a sense of sort of your background and where you're coming to things from, I think that would be a real help as a starting point.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you guys, and again, thank you for having me, and thank you for watching. Those of you that are. So I don't know, where do I start? I'm never very comfortable speaking about myself because I think, like a lot of you guys, I'm just like you guys, right? I'm just a guy that's been doing my thing. I'm a father. I've got a partner. I've got my kids, and I was going through life like all of us were. I think like a lot of us that woke up, shall we say, we've all always had like an undercurrent of something not quite being right, but never really being able to put your finger on it. And I know this now for my own situation. I think that pace of life that we were used to before was intentional, so that we didn't really have the time to pause and take a breath and look at other things. And I think, like a lot of us, 2020 came, and a lot of us woke up, right? Because we had a lot of time on our hands, and that was certainly the truth for me. And for me, it was a very quick experience. I didn't really know it then, but I know now because it's very easy to look back in time and join the dots, as it were, through our different experiences. But for me, I was kind of burnt quite badly in the '08 crash, and that was my first awakening, I guess, to put it simply. In that I just decided that's not going to happen again. What the hell happened? And I needed to understand it. So my starting point was, right, let's work out how this financial system thing works. And it wasn't too long before I kind of got to the truth of that. And that was my first, like, I kind of call it like a paradigm changing experience, like where there's sort of mute buttons pushed and this paradigm shatters, and then you start to ask all these natural questions because of it. And once I got to the point that this system is privately owned, and then you get to the history of how it came into place, you can't, you naturally start questioning everything. And I did, and I was questioning everything. And that was a really hard moment of my life because, this world's going on. I started realizing this unease I'd been feeling all these years, there was something to it. But the other problem was nobody around me was waking up, and I was being labelled as that crazy one. And I had young children and stuff, so I kind of made a decision that I wasn't going to change the world on my own, rightly or wrongly. And I jumped straight back on that hamster wheel, and I got there running again. Got to pay the bills. Got to get that next big thing, whatever it was. And I was doing that. So all the way through to 2020, and then that happened. And for some reason, I have no idea why, I knew that I won't got to be careful what I say here. Actually, I knew that place in China was doing some very bad things, and it obviously quickly realised the narrative didn't make any sense. And then off we went, bang! I'm awake, and I think that kind of brings us to this point now because, at that time for me, it was a very isolating experience, which I think has been the case for all of us. We all know what's happened with friends and family and all that sort of good stuff, but there for me was a huge and there still is a spiritual aspect to this thing, where I'd again had no real understanding as to why prior to the wake up, but I'd become an atheist, and the only reason I'd become an atheist was because, you know, when you look into the history of religion and everything, it was built on, you know, a foundation of murder and evil deeds, and I couldn't really get my head around why would I be part of that. Flip that though, I always had this yearning for something, and again, I couldn't quite place my finger on it. And it wasn't until I woke up that I don't know what it was. It was almost like a knowing without knowing. I just knew it felt right, and bang, I'm awake to everything. And with that, dovetailing into what I actually do, in fact, I should probably, before I got to what I actually do, I think the initial thing for me was I very quickly accepted and understood that, you know, there's some very bad people that are doing some very bad things, and they want a reduced head count on the world, right? So trying to work these words out.
Gavin, yeah.
Yeah, but you can tell, right? I'm at a bit of practice.
Channel, yeah.
And so my initial reaction, being a father and a family man, was like, you know, are we running through the hills here? Like, how am I supposed to deal with this situation? It wasn't like you could speak to your family and friends because they weren't aware of what was going on and thought we were crazy. And it wasn't like we could go and buy some book on Amazon that would tell us what to do. So I was in a bit of a panic state, I'll be honest with you. I kind of very quickly got to that point that everything's a lie. And I think if you're going through that, it's a very challenging situation to be in, because your entire world, all this structure you think is there and you know what's going on, are just gone. And so I was actually, I look on it now, fortunate that my partner wasn't waking up, certainly at the pace that I was. And she put a bit of like calm to my own thought process. And from there, that's where I started to kind of calm down and think, right, how do we do this? And so my first thing was, I'm not going to contribute to this system anymore. And that really indirectly got me face to face with the system. And then very quickly realizing I better start comprehending how the law works. And that really, one thing dovetails to the next. And going through this sort of experience, I don't know, for me, I had no more interest in the business that I was running. Nothing was there anymore. And I just kind of realized that this is that moment in time that if you don't do something, you know, you look back on, if you're lucky to get into the future, and you look back on that as that moment that you didn't do anything. And just for me, I can only speak for me, I didn't have a clue what I was supposed to be doing, but I knew there was a purpose to me being this awake. Like, this couldn't be for some random reason. I now know, speaking to so many good people like your good selves, that I wasn't isolated in that. And I needed something to do. And long story short, I walked away from everything I had, obviously put a lot of strain on my family situation, the finances and everything else. But looking on that now, the last 3 years, it was meant to be, because I moved sort of seamlessly into the law, started dealing with my own situations, started getting some results. And then I decided there must be some people out there that want to know the same sort of thing. So I'll put some videos out. I had no expectation with that. And that's exactly what I did. And I had 5 videos, sorry. Nothing happened with the first 4. And then the 5th one, I put out what I'd learned about dealing with my council tax situation. And I learned that the whole thing was a complete scam. And that video went viral. And here I am. You know, it's been a roller coaster ride since then, helping so many different people. And it's not just that. I don't know if you're watching this overseas, you've got other like versions of the same sort of thing with councils taxing properties. But we're now into sort of all debt matters, because once you realise the lie, you realise the lie of money, and you realise that there is actually no debt as well. And when you understand all of this, not that it's easy to challenge the system, but you can challenge the system and you can win. And that's really what we're doing right now with sovereign empowerment. And we want to embody all of the principles of what it actually means to be sovereign. And part of that is also introducing other people like me, like us, that have something to say and maybe something to offer those people like us that are also in our way trying to fight. And probably that's a nice segue to give it back to you guys, really. So that's me. I'm nothing special. I'm just realizing that it's a very important moment in history. And for me personally, I won't look back and say I didn't do anything. And that's why I'm here talking to you guys now.
Absolutely. Gary, is there anything you'd like to say before?
Well, I mean, you know, it mirrors my journey a lot, you know, so in very similar ways, even on that whole atheist religious aspect as well on these things. So and I hope with the audience they'll recognise even just parts of it in their own journey. I was talking to another friend yesterday. He's in that same moment of like, you know, he's got that pull of I should be doing something. What can I do? And obviously, it was the same thing with Casper and I. That's how the channel came out. What can we do? You know, so there's a lot of that going on at the moment, and that's we try and give these voices and these platforms to get them out to support others who are in their moment of, well, where am I? What's happening? What can I do? So we try and give solutions in that way. But yeah, that's my view on your whole story. I think it's a journey that many of us have already been on, and some are just starting. So they've got a lot more.
And if you're just starting, buckle up.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right. Okay, well, look, what I took from that, thank you, Gary. That it's insightful and energetically insightful, always from Gary, and but both of you actually, because both what's coming across is, of course, you're very erudite anyway, but it's not just that anymore. It's not to sit around and talk about things in ways that are, you know, maybe it's compelling and it's nice and it's interesting and whatever, but it's actually to feel that thing of what did we just come up against? You know, we came up against, just to make it simple, the carpet being taken from under us all. And that carpet was everything that we knew formerly, understood, felt, all of those aspects about what we thought reality was. And we've had to reshuffle and rejig after that and put the pieces back together in a slightly different way and look at what that future looks like and begin to take action. And if you think about it, Gavin, or both of you actually, in the time that's, you know, we're talking about probably over the last 3 years. So for most of us who are, you know, whatever we're in, 40s, 50s, whatever we may be in, that's a very short space of time in multiple lifetimes, never mind just this one, to reformulate everything, try and keep our homes together, our families together, try to keep some friends, you know, and some will have fallen away. And many out there will understand what it's like to lose family members in the sense of they're no longer talking to you, or you just don't seem to resonate with them anymore, or you've had really bad fallings out and whatever. And then to be taking action out of in the backdrop, that all in the backdrop, and then taking action. It's incredibly tough. So Gavin, just go back to what you've managed to create out of this, if you don't mind. And obviously those specific actions you're taking, because this really, we could talk to you many, many times, and we'd love to, and we hope we do. But just for this first sort of intro, what did you actually set up and create? So going back to the sovereignty aspect, and what are your sort of, if there are a number of channels out of that that you feel are absolutely the core of what you're now doing, what would those be?
That's a really good question, actually. And again, I'll be honest with you guys, because what we're now doing wasn't the intention when I started. Remember, all I did was put some videos out. That was the intention. And from that, there was interest. And then I took people's calls. And from there, I thought, oh, my gosh, we can help some people. And it's been like I've been running by the seat of my pants, if I'm being honest with you. But going through that period of time, this was sort of March last year that I put the videos out. Going through that and just meeting so many different people, it started to give me some ideas as to, you know, what we could create here. Now just a brief thing, I didn't mention this with my history. Corporate entrepreneur, created my own businesses. You know, I'd come from a sort of online marketing type of world, and doing what I've been doing, I put it all to one side to do it. And then obviously that knowledge and those different things I'd learned started to come into play. So I started thinking a bit bigger. So where are we at today? There's just two aspects to what we're doing here. The first part of it is the social media element. Okay, and I've now realised that, and again, I didn't know I have this, but I have a particular skill set, I guess, for consuming information and putting it into a format that other people seemingly find easy to digest. And I didn't know that I could do that, but I can. So that's part of what we want to do, is building out this social media platform that is educational, and educational in a number of aspects. Now, primarily right now, we're talking about the law, and I say that loosely, how the system really works and how you can sort of navigate the courts, etc. And part of that is then getting in, you know, what I call warriors that are out there doing this stuff and getting these wins, and having those folks share their stories and even, you know, paperwork, etc. So we can actually produce a sort of a litigation army of people standing in their own power, which is essentially what it is to be sovereign, hence sovereign empowerment, so that we can actually start pushing back against this tyrannical system that we find ourselves living in, you know. So that's that aspect of it. And then the other part of it then is it's bigger than this, but there's the people's law firm. So it's, you know, some people are going to want help, they're going to need hands-on training. You know, it's kind of giving people access to the information that we've had to like scrape together, because there's no real resource out there that you can go to find it. There's lots of misdirection, there's lots of people that are crooks, if you like, and you know, it's giving people something that they know and they can trust to say this is the stuff that works, and you're actually speaking and being assisted by people that are doing it and winning. So that's the big thing. But there's a spin-off to that, and what I've also realized is helping the people that I help, you've got so many amazing people that have other skill sets and knowledges, their own journey through this awakening experience. And I think another thing that would resonate, I think, to quite a lot of the audience is this sort of yearning almost to get back to nature, to get back to the land, which for me is just no coincidence. You have the spiritual awakening, and we all know what that's all about, and then this sort of connection back to the, you know, to Mother Earth, to Mother Nature. And with that, there's a lot of amazing people that, you know, I've woke up and gone through the law. You guys have done a different pathway in your journey. And there's others that have gone back to the land, and they're sort of years into that now with a lot of experience and knowledge to share. And so what I've realized in that is that we have a platform now whereby there's these people that can actively share that knowledge one-on-one with people even. And there's other people that are happy to show consideration for that knowledge in their time. So while you've now got this sort of time where, you know, a lot of people are struggling financially, we can create an almost our own ecosystem where people with knowledge and skills that want to give that back to other people that want the same knowledge and skills can do so for some sort of equitable consideration. And it doesn't have to be monetary. That's the beauty of it. So that's also started to come into play. And my mind is spinning with the possibilities of what that presents us. And for me, it just perfectly sinks into what it means to be sovereign, that we can all be self-sustainable, that we don't need this sort of big corporate government machine to tell us how to run our lives. We don't need any of that. And that just by coming together as communities, individual communities, we can create our own realities and our own worlds. And that's really, for me, what's at the heart of sovereign empowerment. That's what I want it to be. There's somewhere we can all go, know there's the truth, and know there's actually genuine assistance for whatever that sovereignty problem would be. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, oh, more than answer. That's excellent. Gary, is there any observations from you before I?
Well, that's it. I think that's it. We'll wrap up now. You said it all. I think this, that, you know, in essence, that is our hope for everything. You know, the ultimate, and I see these things growing already. I mean, Gavin, do you think that the way really is to get on and start building parallel sort of systems, basically? I mean, I know you're of the same mindset as Casper and I, that there's stuff going on in the background that, you know, will to bring some of these things down in for us, or to transition in some way. So maybe there will be new legal systems and things down the line, but rather than waiting, we can just start building the systems and life that we want, like now, you know, as much as we can.
I'm a big advocate of that. And I think especially now, you know, let's say we're 3 years into this whole thing, and you know, there's a lot of things becoming apparent to us. But I also think that, you know, part of being sovereign and standing in your own power is that why do we need to wait to create a reality that we want? We all have the ability to manifest and create those realities. So why do we need? Why? I'm not saying we're all doing this, by the way, but there is this sort of group of apparently awake people that are simply waiting for things to happen. And I kind of feel that one of the reasons that we found ourselves in this situation that we're in is that we've been kind of, you know, diluted to such a point that we freely and willingly just give our power out to other people. And so if you think about that from this sort of awakened community globally, there's that sort of part of them that want to just wait for some other stuff to happen. And I kind of feel like, well, that's just akin to just giving your power away again to some other people to do something for you when you have all the power to create the very reality that you want to live. So in answer to your question, Gary, yeah, I think we should be doing that. And that's for me what I want sovereign empowerment to be and be a part of. Now, the way I look at that is that let's say we all start building stuff out and we've got our nice communities, and then some good stuff does happen, and this new world that we actually want to live in has kind of largely been, there you go, handed on a plate. And I don't think it's going to be that simple, but and that means that maybe what we're doing doesn't need to happen anymore. Great. But I still think it's important we do something, because for me, even the action of doing something is empowering in itself, because you're taking control of your own life again. And you're not in this situation that I think a lot of people find themselves in, is that they're awake, but they're still in that low vibrationary state of fear and anxiety. And, I'm not in control, scared about what the future's going to hold. And the easiest way for me to change that is to do something.
Mm.
That very act of doing something is being sovereign in itself.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, just to add to that, that in many ways, these are just stages for you to work through. We've all been through, well, I know I've been through them, of something's going to happen next week or something. And then after a while, you just think, I'm tired, I can't keep waiting. And it feels like that loop, and it just keep going around waiting. And to me, I took it as a lesson of, again, not I recognizing I'm giving my power away still. And it was just part of my journey to say, okay, I believe that stuff will happen in its time when it does. And in the meantime, we get cracking on with something.
Yeah, I think so. I think actually just on that, just the thoughts used to come to me that maybe one of the objections for some people watching is that, I don't have the time, or, I don't have the money, inflation's going nuts. It's really a struggle to do this, that, and the other. And I completely get that. And a lot of people, a lot of it, I mean, I'm no exception to that. But the one thing that I look at in those situations is I will not allow any of these external pressures, whatever they may be, to be an excuse to stop me doing what I feel I want to do. And I think that's the key thing about that empowerment, that self-empowerment. The moment you decide that all these external pressures and reasons to not do something are no longer a reason to stop you doing something, you're stepping away from the matrix. You're breaking free of that. And that action itself, for me, is it's empowering in that it also raises your vibration. That's a positive action to break those chains, and it can't not put you in a different vibrational state. And when you're in that kind of mindset, the world's your oyster, because there's nothing that you can't do. So, okay, it may not be practical that today, because you haven't got any cash or whatever it may be, you can't do what you want to do. But play chess, be strategic, think ahead a little bit, plan it a little bit. There's no real rush on this stuff. It's the act that you're doing something, even planning that something, that is the empowering factor in this. And it won't all happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in a week, but it's just the consistency of doing something and moving yourself in a different direction to the rails that you're trapped on in the matrix. And I think that's as simple as it needs to be.
That slight deviant away, isn't it? It doesn't need to be exactly like that.
Yeah.
Just a little fractal will drift you off that whatever inevitable path you think, I mean, for me, it was just throw a curveball. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and don't be scared of the matrix. Like, who cares? Like, the way I look at it, keep it really simple. They they are very bad individuals that are doing and want to do very bad things to you and your loved ones. And so in that regard, why would you be scared of anything that system might do? If anything, be angry and use that energy as a reason to take that first action step away. But then you want to live in love. You want to live in positivity, because, okay, they're doing what they're doing. Who cares? What are you doing? That's what really matters. And I think it's just that sort of, you can either be a passenger in your own life, or you can take control of your own life. And taking control just starts with simple, conscious actions or decisions that you make to take it in a different direction. And that's it. Just keep it simple.
And the very interesting thing about this time as well is that Gary and I would say that even setting up the channel, never mind getting wonderful people on like yourself, we had Dr. Kia that we did this humanitarian projects conversation with, which was very much about this thing of not waiting and just doing what you can now. And the act of doing that will help manifest the outcome. But I think that a key point actually for all of us at the moment is exactly that we've all been it's just part of the process, as Gary said, that you will inevitably go on hold because you found out there was something bad. You found out there's something good that's going to help out. And you think, well, okay, then that was bad and I was in a terrible state. Now I'm feeling okay about this other thing. Maybe I don't need to do anything. And then it does occur. I just think it's a natural part of the process that actually you need to take some form of action. And that by doing that, at the very least, maybe we go and do projects that are tiny, right? Absolutely tiny in the context of this much wider thing. But then we can make all our mistakes on that tiny level. If all this other stuff comes in, that means you're then running something that's huge. You've made any mistakes doing something that was completely innocuous anyway. So, you know, there's something beautiful about all these aspects, about what we have considered. Because I think part of the awakening is that thing that you realize that nothing was a mistake and that nothing was wrong. It was just what was happening. And as you look back with hindsight, you know, it's all a beautiful thing, right? But it's just when you're trapped within it that it's not too pleasant.
And I think that, again, just back to the simplicity of action, is that there is, like you say, I'm repeating really what you said, but there is no right or wrong action. There's just the action that you take and the lesson you get from doing it. And often you don't learn the lesson unless the action you took was the wrong one, right? If it's right all the time, like, life would be bloody simple and easy, wouldn't it? But and that's the thing, again, just about when you bring it down to a single action that you're consciously aware of. This is, again, where I find a lot of people then just go and do something else. You know, they won't make that final decision, that final commitment to go do whatever it is that they want to go and do, because they're scared of the what if it's wrong, what if this happens, what if that, and all the what if buts and maybes. And for me, that's the trap. If you let that stuff trap you, then you will never do, and then you repeat the same actions. Even doing nothing is an action in itself, and that manifests a reality. So if you simplify everything to, you know, a choice giving you an outcome and the outcome creating a reality that you're living, it kind of comes back to the simple point that you want to be consciously aware of the choices you're making, the actions that you're taking, so that you are gradually manifesting the reality that you want. Take care in the actions, but don't care about whether they're right or wrong. They will be what they will be, and you will learn accordingly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. I think, look, I'd love to have covered a lot more ground, or I'd love to go on to cover a lot more ground with you, Gavin. But as an initial, and given that we're running out of time anyway, as a snapshot into all of it's nice because this felt very collegiate, you know, like we're all doing things together. You've done some incredible stuff very, very quickly and born out of love. You know, you get that sense ultimately the fear fell away fairly quickly, and everything now is the transmutation of that into something very positive. So, thank you very much indeed, Gavin. Really great to have you on.
It's a pleasure, guys. I appreciate it.
I really hope that you will come back and do more with us if you've got the time.
I'd love to. If your audience wants me back, I'm more than happy to come back on and support. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And we will, of course, as Gary said, put any of your information in the show more section so people can directly engage with your material or with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys, and thank you for watching.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much indeed.